Let's get going.
Alright, what's up everybody? I'm Ford373 and I'm going to be doing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix HD, and I'm going to be doing Aqua Beginner any percent. Um, so I guess if y'all are ready, then let's go ahead and count down. Alright, so let's start in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so Kingdom Hearts is probably like a decently well-known franchise at this point. It's basically the culmination of a combination of Disney and Final Fantasy properties. Um, it's essentially what would happen if like Mickey Mouse were to fight with Cloud Strife, which is something that actually happens, at least in Kingdom Hearts 2, I believe. And it's a pretty interesting franchise just because of how bizarre it is combining these two very distinctly different type of IPs and creating something very unique and interesting. Uh,
We are currently experiencing technical difficulties. We will be resuming this run when the runner's internet is restored. Alright, looks like our runner is just about all set back up after the internet outage, and we can get right back into it.
Okay, after a bit of an after a bit of an interruption, we're back. Sorry about that. Shout outs to Comcast. Damn, I just wanted to do a quick restart for me in the middle of my run, but it's all right. We're professionals around here, and we continue onward. All right, so basically, what we're going to be pretty much doing this entire run is we're going to be going around and going to different Disney worlds, and we're going to be helping out by basically defeating these things what are known as unversed. So unversed are essentially the heartless of this game. If you remember from Kingdom Hearts, they are essentially like just culminations of malice. They're like evil monsters that you have to try and take out using the Keyblade. Keyblade wielders are essentially people who are chosen by destiny in order to fight against the darkness. And Aqua is one of those chosen Keyblade wielders, one of 3 masters who are basically studying under the tutelage of Master Ericus. And essentially Aqua's job is to go out and clean up behind the other 2 Keyblade masters. Well, Keyblade masters, they're not exactly Keyblade masters yet, but Terra and Ventus, who are her friends and companions, who she has trained and grown up with over the years on the world that they've lived on. Alright, so I'm going to be collecting a few chests along the way. These are going to be used for either synthesis in order to make stronger attack commands, or they're going to be sold in order to get a bit of extra money. The money route in this game isn't particularly tight, but there are select things that you have to collect in order to sell to buy better commands later on, and it's pretty crucial in order to make sure I don't miss any of them, but really have collected all the chests that I've needed so far. Alright. So we're going to be coming up on our first force fight. Most fights we can kind of just walk past if it's just regular unversed that are just out and about the world, but sometimes we are forced in order to actually fight unversed in specific encounters. This is one of them. So right now we need to escort Jock, who's the rat with the key, in order to help Cinderella escape from her imprisonment. If you kind of know the story of Cinderella, you know that her stepmother is kind of an awful person and keeps her locked up. So we have to help Jock free her. And essentially, Jock will not progress if there are unversed near him. So we have to try and kill the ones and hope that he walks in a path that is favorable. The thing about Jock is that he doesn't always walk in the same path. I believe it's essentially random which path he will walk, which right now this path is not great just because of the amount of unversed that do spawn by walking this way. So not exactly an optimal route for him to take, but The good thing about this is that we do get a bit of extra experience from this. Hopefully we can start walking now. There we go. I don't have to kill all the Unversed. I just have to kill enough of them to get them out the way so that Jock can reach his destination. This is one of the worst paths he can possibly take. Ultimately, you want him to walk around a bit of the right side so that he's able to just go by with as few Unversed encounters as possible. Right now, he is pretty much encountering every single Unversed that he could possibly take. Alright, we should be able to interact with him here, and there's the first fight. Not great, but unfortunately, you know, that just kind of happens sometimes. Sometimes your net goes out, sometimes Jock takes the wrong route. Just kind of roll with the punches and you go with it. Alright, coming up we have the first boss fight, which is going to be Curse Coach. Essentially what I'm going to be trying to do is I guess I should explain a bit of the way combat works in this game. So there are different command styles that your character can take on in this game, and those are determined by what spells you use from the little spell deck on the left side. So by using all these different spells, I can pick up the spell we recommend, and it's going to be very useful. It'll allow me to stun lock the Curse Coach. Alright, there we go. I can only probably get one more hit and on him to stun lock him. And then once you fill up the gauge completely, and it doesn't fulfill the requirements in order to reach a second command style, you'll do like a big finishing move, which can do a lot of damage, but isn't particularly useful here. You actually would prefer to keep your gauge from being fully filled as much as possible, but it's perfectly fine. Ultimately, you don't want the Curse Coach in order to eat you, but sometimes stuff just happens, so. And, alright, you should be dead. Not the best Curse Coach fight, but I've definitely had worse before. So pretty much the story behind this game is that initially Terra, who was the kind of tall boy with the brown hair, was sent out in order to investigate the Unverse. Ventus went after Terra immediately behind him because he was worried about his friend. He was worried that he might be in danger. And then Aqua was essentially sent out to bring Ventus home because he wasn't supposed to leave their world. And eventually also look after Terra because their master, Ericus, essentially thinks that Terra has strayed too close towards the darkness. The game really pushes this idea and story where, like, darkness is bad and the light is good. And that's always going to be true no matter what. But it really kind of plays with this idea of that's not always true, and darkness doesn't necessarily mean evil. Darkness can be used as a way in order to protect your friends. There are a couple of characters who actually utilize the power of darkness in a way that is used to protect good instead of fighting against it. And there are also a few characters who, even though they fight with the power of light, aren't exactly on the most morally upstanding position. Alright, so we're going to use Barrier Surge in order to pick up that a bit earlier. Normally you would need the high jump ability in order to get up there, but by cleverly utilizing Barrier Surge, we can actually access that chest earlier and get a very powerful spell, which is Fish and Fire, which is going to do a lot of damage for us, and we're actually going to utilize the entirety of the run. A very powerful early pickup. Maneuvering through the world is actually something that's kind of difficult because pretty much Aqua's main way of traversing is by cartwheeling around by pressing the square button over and over again. The thing about that, though, is that you have to time your... Oh, shoot, I accidentally dashed in the wrong direction. You have to time your your button presses so that you do not mess up your rolls, because if you just mash the square button too much, then you won't be able to roll as much and as efficiently and traverse the world as quickly. So you have to time your button presses in order to try and get a good rhythm going to maneuver through the world very quickly. Alright, so this is a magic mirror fight. Effectively what we want to do is you want to do hit and then a command about 4 times in order to get as much damage as possible, or he heads into his... I missed my poison. That's unfortunate. Or he heads into his next phase where he's going to attack. Let's see which attack he does. This one's fine. He's going to shift back and forth, and we're going to wait for him to come up, and we're going to shield. See if we can get a hit in. There we go. Essentially, you want him attacking as little as possible. Getting poison is really good for this fight, as it's a dot, so even if he does this, you can still get damage in on him. So in that attack, I could not move. Whenever he creates multiple copies of himself, you want to look for the space that's smiling. That's always the one that's going to be the fate that you can actually hit. I couldn't hit him out of that. That's unfortunate. Same for this row of attacks. We're going to be looking for the mask that's smiling. So I'm going to go down this row, and if I don't see it, I will go back the other way. Actually, not. There he is. Hopefully I should be able to end the fight here. He was able to go under one more. Bit of an annoying attack, because he will continue to teleport and then spam confusion attacks at you. Did get a dot on him, so okay, we were able to avoid that. And one more. It's just barely not going to hit him. That's unfortunate. There we go. Bit of a slow fight than Magic Mirror, but it's alright. Okay, so for the next row, we're going to be heading to, I believe that one was Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. The next one will be, I believe it's Sleeping Beauty. Now, I'm not 100% fully versed on the story of this game because it's been a while since I played through this casually. But I believe that essentially what is going to happen is you're going to be working with the Prince Philip in order to fight the Dragon Maleficent in order to save Sleeping Beauty from the evil witch's curse. So, that's pretty much how the story of the fairy tale went, or the story of the movie, but with a bit of a twist because of the fact that you have the new characters added. But essentially, they do follow the traditional movie's storyline. Okay, so coming up we have the first shop. So I'm going to need to pull out my notes real quick, and going to be selling pretty much everything that isn't useful so that we can buy the things that are necessary. Maybe only need about 600, and then buy 4 magnets and one. I need to sell one more thing. We'll sell this, and then buy 1 arrow. Okay, and then we are going to take these and put them in. Alright, and now we are going to equip a stronger Keyblade, allow us to do fights much more quickly. And then we're going to do a bit of another sequence break using Terra's D-Link. So by doing a bit of a geometry abuse here, we can access this area that we're not supposed to get to just yet because we don't have high jump and we don't have the double jump abilities, in order to get a spell that's called Ice Barrage. It's going to be useful for when we fight the Dragon Maleficent, and it's also going to come in handy whenever we need to get a bit of money. Because it's such a high-level spell, it's going to sell for a lot of money, and we can use it to buy other spells that are going to be more useful to us. Alright, so we're going to try and gather up as many of these enemies as possible, as many goons, and kill them as quickly as we can. I'm waiting for my abilities to come on cooldown. I'm just going to get a few hits in. Unfortunately, your spells can be interrupted if you are hit whenever they are about to be cast. If they didn't come out yet, then they can still be interrupted, which is a little bit annoying, but it's nothing too important as long as you are able to kind of time your spells so that you don't get hit before they are cast. This is another room where kind of cartwheeling optimally is going to be very useful, as traversing big rooms like this is pretty much all about timing your cartwheels properly. Alright, so next is the castle escape sequence. So there are specific enemies that we have to kill in order to advance this specific stage sequence. So these two goons on the lower floor are the most important enemies, so I'm going to have to take them out first. And then the other ones will spawn in. Most of the enemies that we have to take out generally will spawn on the ground. On occasion, they will be enemies that are kind of located above, but for the most part, you really just need to take out the goons that are on the ground. Let's see if I can gather these guys up. There we go. Okay. And I'm gonna have to shoot. Did I take out this one? I did. So the enemies over here are gonna spawn in. Gather them up with magnet. Fortunately, the camera can do a lot of wacky things sometimes, so keeping up with all the enemies that you need to take out can be a little bit difficult sometimes. There we go. Now Philip is gonna move over here, and we're gonna do a quick action sequence, and we're actually supposed to land up on that platform, but it seems like the game didn't exactly favor me doing that exactly. So I'm actually gonna kill a few more of these goons here just because I need a bit more experience, not on Aqua specifically, but on the abilities. So an interesting thing with abilities in this game is because they're attached to an action, like a little action deck, the way that they level up is by using them and then they become stronger. Once they reach a certain level, you can actually meld them into even stronger spells, which have greater effects and deal more damage, and are just generally more useful. So we're going to need to get all of our spells up to level 2. Kill as many of these as possible. Looks like I did get all those dead, and okay, so there's still a few more enemies that need to die. And now he's going to move. Okay. Or actually, there's another wheel over here that we need to hit, but we can actually use Fission Fire Guy in order to hit it without having to travel along the top. We can complete the escape sequence. Alright, so this is going to be the first meld of the run. Is that what I meant to do? So by combining these two together and then using these little accessory crystals, we can get bonus passive effects. So this passive effect, Magic Haste, essentially what it does is it makes it so that my spells come off of cooldown much faster than they normally would without the use of Magic Haste. So it allows me to have more DPS by having my abilities off cooldown much more quickly than usual. You'll notice that the bar for it fills up a lot faster than it did before we got Magic Haste. So, the way that passive abilities work with spells is that if you are able to max out a spell, its passive ability will become permanent, and you will no longer have to have that spell on your hotbar in order to use it. If you don't have the spell maxed out, then you still will have to keep the ability up in order to keep the passive ability. That's going to be very important for us to keep in mind as we play through the game, and that's why EXP management on our skills is just as important, if not more important, than on our character. And a bit more experience so I can reach level 4, which will make the Dragon Maleficent fight a lot easier. This should kill. There we go. Oh, picked up a Fire Dash. That'll be useful for selling later. Alright. Now to the boss of this world, Dragon Maleficent. Alright, so the general strategy for this fight is to be able to do as much damage to Maleficent while making it so she can't really hit you. So the best thing you can do really is to just stand behind her right hind leg. Just kind of throw spells out at her. As much damage in. At a certain point, she will attempt to fly off, which is going to be kind of annoying, but you want to try and get in as much damage as possible before she does that. Even though it looks like I'm missing my spells, I'm actually still hitting her. She still has a hitbox behind her hind leg for some reason. Spell Weaver here, a good decent bit of damage. Her Dragon Breathing here is actually really good. It means that she's not going to fly off. I can get a good bit of damage in. Okay. I actually prefer to have my Spellweaver up before she flies off because there's going to be an action sequence here in a second where Philip is going to throw Aqua up into the air so that she can land on Dragon Maleficent as she's flying through. If you get the Spellweaver activation as the final hit right here, you can actually just completely soft lock your game, which is not something you want to do. Needless to say. I get her to fall down? No, I can't, but she will be about 1 or 2 hits away when she finally comes down. There we go. That wasn't the absolute worst Dragon Maleficent fight. Her doing the Dragon Breath near the end definitely made it so I could get a decent bit of extra damage in and making that last section pretty fast. Yeah. I will say I'm not using the optimal save file. The optimal save file for doing Aqua runs is actually, I believe, a completed Ventus file, as there are certain cutscenes that don't play if you are playing on a save file that has Ventus completed. It saves you a bit of time from having to do with skipping cutscenes and load screens. Okay, load my notes again. This time we're going to need to equip, we do not want that, we want to equip arrow on this, and also equip the other magnet. Also going to equip our new Keyblade. We don't always equip the strongest Keyblade that we have for physical, sometimes it's for magical. Primarily we actually just want magical for Aqua, especially because of the fact that Aqua is more of a magic-based attacker. Each of the different characters has different playstyles that they prefer to use. Aqua is more of a magic-based attacker. Ventus is very combo-heavy. He likes hitting fast and hitting quick. And then Terra is a very strong, heavy hitter type. So he prefers hitting very hard with each attack that he uses. These enemies are not being very kind to me right now. Okay. Put them to sleep. I need to get a specific drop from these enemies, but I also need for everything to stop hitting me and canceling my spells. Okay, this one didn't drop anything. That's unfortunate. Even if all these enemies die, I can still fight some more of the exact same enemy up top that can give me a drop. I've actually never had take this long. Okay, there we go. I got the Abounding Crystal drop. So that's going to be very useful for a spell that we're going to get a little bit later that's going to allow us to get EXP by simply just walking around. It's going to be one of our big sources of EXP to keep us on level for the rest of the run. Okay, so next up is going to be a fight with Mickey. So me and Mickey are going to have to work together in order to take out the Unburst. I'm going to try and gather up these small Unbursts so that they can't go underground. And get these out of the ground as well so that they cannot avoid taking damage here. I don't want to Spellweaver quite this early, but kind of left with no choice. See if I can get these before they go underground. I believe I did. Okay, I believe I've caught all of them, so I really just need to finish them off. Don't believe this will hit? No. A few more that are left. See if I can gather them up with Magnet. Magnet is very good for clearing out crowds of enemies. It is one of the most effective ways for dealing with large crowds, and that is what makes up a good majority of the fights that aren't boss fights, is just dealing with crowds of enemies. It was a little bit slow, but turned out just fine in the end. So if I got enough EXP, I should be able to fuse a new spell. Yep. Using the Abounding Crystal that we picked up earlier. We get the Zero Grabber spell, and it's going to have the passive ability of EXP walking, which every step we take is going to grant us EXP. So we got a new level up. Go over here and grab one of the strongest spells in the game, actually, Mind Square. Mind Spore is a very powerful magic spell where essentially what it does is it places magic like mines on the field that will deal damage to any enemies that walk over it. It is going to be incredibly useful and it's going to clear out bosses very effectively. Okay. So now we're going to sell off the Ice Rod spell as we no longer have need of it. And we're also going to sell off Fire Dash, even though it's not going to give us enough money. We'll just sell these 2 potions. They could be useful later on, but I need the money now, so hopefully we'll pick up some more later. Alright, going to pick up 5 fires, and then I am going to book them all right now. Because we're going to need to level them, and they're going to be vital for the grind that we're going to have to do coming up. I'm going to have to do a bit of grinding in order to put myself on level, but thankfully I only have to grind once. And it shouldn't take too long, RNG willing of course, but fortunately RNG hasn't been too kind to me so far, so we'll see how well that holds up. So much like a lot of the other aspects of the game, I guess I should explain dealing. So essentially, oh wow, okay, thank you game for actually working with me for once tonight. So essentially what dealings are is whenever you meet new characters, you form bonds with them. And by forming bonds with them, you are able to utilize new spells by using the dealing bar in order to forge, essentially like combining your powers with them, which will allow you to use new spells and have new attacks that you have access to. Mickey's dealing is especially helpful because it has oh my god, this game is being exceedingly kind. It grants us access to one of the fastest clearing spells in the game, which is Sign of Fate, for clearing out these low-level mobs. All I really need to do is just quickly press... Oh, and I got that now too. I need to get a level 1 on Terra, so yeah, this is an exceptional grind to start out with. I guess it's kind of making up for all the bad things that happened earlier. So really all we have to do is just walk up and turn on Mickey's D-Link and just clear out mobs. Essentially what we're going to be doing is we need to get to less so a specific level on Aqua, but more so a specific level on our spells. We want to craft a Fire Ga early on, which will make dealing with every fight from here on out a lot easier. Yeah, this is probably some of the best luck that I've ever seen, so Marathon luck is coming in clutch tonight. I definitely need it because real life luck is not working on my side, but you know what, that's alright. Pull through and we make do. The game is rewarding us in turn. Yeah, enemies really don't have much of a way to fight back. Because it takes a second for enemies to even be able to attack once they spawn, if we pull out the Sign of Fate quickly enough, they really just have no way of dealing with just instantly destroying them. Oops. Oh, I don't have another Fleeting Crystal. That's kind of an issue, but well, we'll use the Pulsing Crystal and see what we get. Leaf Bracer? That's actually not too bad. Essentially what Leaf Bracer does is it allows you to use Cure spells without being interrupted no matter what. I had said earlier that enemies can attack you in order to interrupt your spells, but because of the fact that we have Leaf Bracer, no Cure spell can be interrupted, which we really don't utilize Cure until the last boss of the game, but it can very much come in clutch, so I'm not too upset about it. What this means is that we miss out on a bit of damage, because normally I would have used a crystal that gives you extra fire damage, but fortunately I didn't really get one, so just gonna have to make do. It's all good though. I've yet to see another fleeting or pulsing crystal, so not sure how I'm going to be doing on the damage department in terms of fire boost. Soothing crystal is not the one I need. It's Shimmering Crystal. I believe that's the one I need for boosting my fire damage. There we go. Getting at least one fire boost will be extremely helpful, and Fleeting Crystal is the other one that we need. I probably could have farmed up a bit more in order to hope for another Fleeting Crystal, but I had already fused one of my spells, and now we're getting a lot more Fleeting Crystals. The game is kind of mocking me right now. It's actually pretty funny.
Rippin' RNG.
Yeah. Alright, so we gotta do one more grind to get our fire res up to level 3, and then we'll be done with the grind. Yeah, like I said, it really doesn't take too long. Maybe about 5 minutes worth of grinding, which really isn't too bad to not have to grind for the rest of the game. Clear out the rest of these. I have fire red to level 3 now, but getting to a decent level is pretty safe for a marathon. Honestly, if it were a PvE attempt, I probably would have just got the fire res to the level I needed and then moved on, but having a bit of extra safety doesn't hurt. Alright. Okay, so we do get a Simmering Crystal, so target boost. Okay, I really have to hope that the game does not screw me over here. Let's see. And that's what I didn't want to see. Alright, alright, let me look at my notes for this. So that's the worst, well, it's not the worst thing that could happen, but it's just a bit annoying. So when you fuse spells, there's a chance that you get a spell that you don't actually want, or at least I don't actually want, which is Fission Fire Gut. It is, or not Fission Fire Gut, it's Raging Storm. It is not particularly useful for the run, but again, it's one of those things that I was really hoping wouldn't happen in the run. I did a lot of practice runs to try and make sure that this wouldn't be something that would happen, but can't really trust RNG. So yeah, I just need to put another Magnera in its place. We'll end up selling that later, but our damage will be a little bit muted because of the fact that, one, we have less attack haste, because of the fact, or magic haste I should say, because of the fact that one of them is attached to Raging Storm, which I won't be utilizing. And because of the fact that I only got one fire boost and a leaf bracer from my fusion, so it's a little bit scuffed, but it's all good in the end. We'll be able to pull through, because I did get a decent amount of extra levels from the enemies I had to fight during the Jock Escort fight, so. Alright, so now we're going to continue and finish the Radiant Garden World. So now this is the first and only time that we're going to end up fighting with the other two playable characters in the game, Terra and Ventus, is during the Trinity fight. Everyone eventually comes to do this fight. Everyone eventually meets up here, and then they go their separate ways after the world ends due to story reasons. Essentially what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get the Firestorm spell as quickly as possible. I want to get into position to use Mind Square and get big damage in on the enemy. And then hopefully I can hit these. She kind of turned there because of the hit I took. It's alright though. As long as I can just break the body as quickly as possible, get another Mind Square in. And, okay, this Firestorm is guaranteed to hit. There we go. Firestorm does a lot of damage to this boss. I need to break all the pieces. He should do a circular beam attack here. And send it back at him. Throw down another Mind Square in order to get a bit more damage in. And then throw out Firestorm, which should just completely delete his health bar. There we go. I kind of mispositioned myself there. I could have gotten a bit more damage and possibly into the fight already, but alright. He's pretty close to being dead by now. If I can throw down one more square, and there we go. Oh no, that was not too bad of a fight. Ven and Terra don't really do a whole lot during that fight. It's pretty much just you that's going to be doing most of the DPS, but a lot of that just comes down to the fact that we're just pretty over leveled for where we are in the game right now. So I can't really fault those two for essentially being what would be like maybe level 7 or 8 CPUs. Meanwhile, I'm sporting essentially like level 18 or 17 or something like that. Alright, so next we're going to head to the boss of this area. I'm going to activate Terra's D-Link here. When you activate a D-Link, for some reason the game just kind of rockets you to the ground if you're in the air, so it's very useful for kind of saving time from having to just fall down. Yeah. And this is going to be our first run-in with one of this game's main antagonists, which is Vanitas. Hopefully he's just a bad dude, he's got a bad attitude, and he's just kind of mad at the world, so you have to beat him up for it. And so a weird thing about this is like most bosses are not susceptible to being hit by the magnet spell, but for some reason, Vanitas is, and you can just kind of use that in order to stun lock him. Can't really do a whole lot unless we attack him and he's able to escape out of it. Sometimes he just doesn't. Sometimes he just chills there, spinning around the circle. Look at him. Look at him go. Alright, and now we have the ability to use Blade Charge, which is going to be very powerful. Even though Aqua doesn't have great base strength, attacks from Blade Charge actually hurt a lot right now. We can pretty much dispatch him exceedingly quickly. Alright, and that's essentially the first half of the world that we have to do. The second half of the worlds open up, which are ones that not really Disney princess themed, they're more modern Disney films, I would say. One is based on Lilo and Stitch, one is based on Olympus Coliseum from Hercules, and the other one is basically like just a specific like Disney World. Like think of it as Disneyland essentially, which is actually where we're going right now. So this world is very unique depending on the character. For Aqua, essentially what she has to do is she has to play a game of volleyball with giant fruit against the Unverse instead of actually battling them. Each of the characters has their own like little mini game that they kind of have to do here. Terra has to do a racing kart, a la like Mario Kart. Actually, I'd say it's closer to. It's hard to pick a comparable like racing game. Probably closer to Crash Team Racing, actually. A little bit odd, but it's pretty neat. And Ventus actually has a rhythm game, almost akin to not really DDR. Almost akin to It's a very weird comparison, but whenever I see it, it makes me think of this American Idol game I used to play on PS2 when I was a kid. Because it uses like very similar things where you have to hit buttons in time to the music. I know it's something that definitely most people wouldn't relate to, but it's essentially just a rhythm game. So basically all we have to do is just knock these fruits into the goal in order to score points, and we just need to have more points than the Unverse by the end, and then just win and beat the world immediately afterwards. Which isn't really too hard. The AI on these guys isn't particularly smart. So all you really have to do is just get a decent enough score, and if you get a big enough lead on the Unverse, you can go AFK and like grab a drink or read your phone, look at Twitter or something like that. Unfortunately, I left to score a lot of points early on, so I'm just gonna keep hitting the fruits in there, because there's not really a reason not to. Oh, come on. There we go. These guys are actually putting up quite a fight. Maybe they should join the Olympics. Neat little thing about the some of these fruits have special properties, like the grapes, if they get hit enough, can fall into multiple pieces, which allow for multiple points to be scored off of like a fruit that's basically like scattered itself. And the bananas, if they get hit enough, create little obstacles on the floor that both Aqua and the Unverse can slip on. So it's a neat little detail. I'd say I have a sizable enough lead where I could literally just go AFK and wouldn't be able to really win at this point, but I might as well just style on them, you know, just show them who's boss and just teach them a lesson they'll never forget.
Sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, I actually really do like this minigame. I like the minigames that they let you do. You don't actually have to be like a specific character to play them, I don't think. I'm pretty sure both Aqua and Ventus could do Terra's minigame and vice versa for the other ones. Ford371's not too bad. That's pretty much the only thing we do here. The world is pretty much completed because we saved them through the power of volleyball. This goes to show you kids that violence isn't always the answer. Normally this is where I would place my Magnera, but because of the fact that I don't have it, because I lost out on one of my fire goods, I'm just going to use Zero Grabber in its place. Alright, so now we gotta do a little fight against the Unversed with Hercules. This is a younger version of Hercules. One thing I kind of forgot to mention is that this game, it is a prequel essentially to the first Kingdom Hearts game, and it takes place 10 years before the events of the first one. So a lot of the characters that you see are going to be a lot younger if they appeared in the first Kingdom Hearts game or the second one. Hercules is no exception. Alright, so we're going to just try and gather up these Unversed and dispatch them as quickly as possible. This would be a little bit faster if I had my other fire gun, but unfortunately you just kind of have to make do. I'm getting a decent amount of items from it, so on the last shop that we'll have to do, I'll have a decent bit to sell. Oh, I accidentally menued off of my other fire gun. There we go. It was a bit slow, but it's not really too important of a fight, honestly. Alright, now I don't remember the exact progression of the story from this point. I believe Phil is just like, hey, you gotta participate in the games if you want to fight the bad guy. So that's the story that we're gonna go with for the time being. So essentially we have to go through 10 rounds of fighting the Unversed, which isn't really too hard. The time limit is actually pretty generous for the amount of enemies you have to fight. I mean, if you take 15 seconds in order to beat this guy, you probably are underleveled and you need to do a little bit of grinding. It's okay, Mickey's got your back in terms of that, so... Yeah, so essentially we want to just gather them up and then just blow them up as quickly as possible. Okay, and I don't really want to use the my D-Link finisher here just because the animation takes a while, and it's much quicker just to kind of throw out my spells in order to dispatch my enemies. I wish that they were up a bit faster, but again, because of the fact that I missed out on some of my magic haste, kind of just makes it so that it's a bit slower for me to dispatch enemies, but it's not too bad. This guy actually survived. He's a trooper. Oh, it's kind of funny watching him twirl around like that. Oh, he was actually able to attack before I could gather him up. These guys are really annoying. You want to try and gather them up as quickly as possible because they could actually go into a state where they're invulnerable and you can't attack them until they leave that invulnerable state. These guys are also really annoying because they attack you as soon as you spawn in. I'm actually going to use this, even though I said I wouldn't. Kind of dispatch them a little bit. And there we go. Alright, so instead of actually finishing this world, we're actually going to leave Olympus Coliseum now, and we're going to do the Lilo and Stitch world. And the main reason for that is if we get a stronger Keyblade, and we'll just be a higher level in general by the time we finish this world. So it'll make it so when we come back to finish this world, it'll be a lot faster. So there's another force fight with the Unverse. As you can see, Aqua's basic attacks are not particularly strong anymore unless she has the blade attachment or command style up, so most of what our damage will be is just spamming spells. Okay, I want to try and grab these guys. One of them went underground. That's the most annoying attack, is those guys can essentially go underground and become invulnerable until they feel like it coming out, so fortunately it's very annoying waiting for them to appear from under the ground. This might be the last one, so I'm just going to use this in order to kind of finish them off. There we go. Okay. And now, essentially, the director lady from Lilo and Stitch is having us go off and dispatch some Unverse that are on the outside of the ship. So we're just going to avoid the Unverse that are on the inside of the ship because they don't matter. We're going to go take care of the ones on the exterior. Alright, so for this fight, we basically just have to eliminate the Unverse as quickly as possible, so our primary method is to just basically spam the basic attack and just hit them as much as possible, get their HP down quickly. Sometimes they'll occasionally hit us, but it's not too big of a deal. They can't really kill us because it would take a lot of hits for us to die. We want them to kind of like run towards us and run into us. Or not necessarily into us, so it's an attack at least, but just be near us so we can do a lot more damage. Actually clearing them out relatively quickly. It's probably one hit away. Okay. Might have to move a bit closer so that I can actually land my shots. This guy is just running away from me, he just doesn't want to cooperate. Started out really well too. Alright. I think there's one more, and there we go. It wasn't too bad. Okay. And now, in order to progress to the next part where we have to help Stitch in order to fight some Unverse, we need to clear out these enemies that are just kind of lounging around in this area. Let's see. I'm gonna gather them up, and unfortunately they interrupted my attack. Kind of annoying, but it's not good. And I believe that's the last one. Now we can activate the teleporter and go fight up some more Unverse in the inside of the containment hole. I'm gonna try and gather these guys up before they can get underground. Again, that's just them wasting time if they're allowed in order to just kind of sit there. Stitch helps out a little bit by kind of just blasting away at some enemies. So, you know, he tries to be a bro, helping out as much as possible. That was actually an exceptionally fast fight. Okay, so now we're gonna do the last shop on the run. Need to sell the Magneris. And we're also gonna sell the Raging Storm because it's not helpful. And then we're going to buy 2 fire agras. It's gonna buy 3 fire agras because of the fact that we are short one. And then I'm going to buy 2 ignite. Then we're going to and then place here. Now we have to go off and I almost forgot. I need to put the sliding dash command. It's gonna be useful for like 1 or 2 instances, but it's just overall nice to have. Or air slide command, I mean. Alright, so we need to travel up this little airway corridor. Okay, I accidentally fell off apparently. It's a little anti-gravity section that's kind of annoying to navigate, but it's not the worst. If you can get up here and then sliding dash into the door, and then we can go on to fight Gantu. I don't remember the exact story reason behind why you fight him. It's probably something to do with him trying to capture 626 or something. It's not really too relevant. All we need to know is that we beat him, and Mind Square is very good for that. As you can see, he lost an entire bar of his health just from me using one spell. Okay, I kind of have to wait a little bit. Come off cooldown. Mind Square one more time, and he's dead. Mind Square is very useful for just dealing out tons of damage, especially if you can get the boss to walk into the extra pieces of it. Okay, now we just have to finish the Olympus Coliseum world that we had started earlier. Our more powerful Keyblade. Alright, this is Zack. He is the other Final Fantasy reference that isn't the Moogle in this game. There actually aren't a lot of Final Fantasy related things in Birth by Sleep, surprisingly. It's pretty much just Zack, the Moogles, and that's pretty much it. It seems as like the further along in the Kingdom Hearts games, the less Final Fantasy related stuff is in there, which is a bit disappointing just because of the fact that it is Final Fantasy cross Disney, so you kind of want both aspects of it there and not just one of them, but it kind of is what it is. If you're wondering who Zack is and how he's related to Final Fantasy, he comes from the PSP title Final Fantasy Crisis Core. He's the main character of that game, and it is essentially a prequel title to Final Fantasy VII, you know, the critically acclaimed PS1 title. A pretty fun game. I'd recommend checking it out if you've never at least looked at it. Okay, next we have to take on Hades and try and keep him suspended in the air so that he can't enter his desperation move, which makes him invulnerable. Which I think I might be out of luck here, unless I can get this Mind Spur off. Oh, he's actually out. Nice. That worked out a lot better than I was expecting. Alright, we just need to take out Ice Titan, who some of you might remember from as one of the Coliseum bosses in Kingdom Hearts 1. He makes another appearance, or I guess an original appearance here, considering the game takes place before that one. And basically have to fight him with Hades, but he's kind of a pushover, honestly. Like, Hades is the real terror of that fight just because of his very strong invincible AoE attack, which didn't give him the chance to show off, thankfully. Alright, and next we're going to be heading to Neverland. This is going to be the last Disney World that we have to enter. I equip the 2 Ignite spells. Essentially, this entire world is just going to be us going from point A to point B. We don't actually have to fight any Embers. We only have to fight one boss, and then we leave here. So this is actually probably one of the quicker worlds. Let's see if my cartwheeling was a bit better, but all good. not really too much time that can be lost here, as long as you don't make any costly mistakes. There is one place where you can lose a decent bit of time if you fall off of a waterfall, which sends you into a previous area, but as long as I'm careful, I shouldn't have to worry about that. So little pixie dust spots that allow us to jump up. They only really appear in this world, but you actually do get a double jump ability once you near the end of this world, which won't actually equip because we don't really have a use for it. So something that kind of just sits there. There's actually quite a few mechanics that you really don't make use of, but they're actually pretty useful in a casual playthrough, so I recommend like utilizing all the tools that this game gives you whenever you play it. Okay, we need to switch to Terra here. And it accidentally targeted the Embers. Annoying, but should be fine if I can hit this. There we go. It saves a little bit of time of having to go around and hit a bunch of the little fairy jump pads, and instead of you just kind of climb up that way and grab that fire gut and then cheese your way around the mountain. Wow, I cannot skip this cutscene. Alright, now we go to the boss of this world, which, recognize him, Vanitas, he's back, and he's a bit tougher this time. Magnera no longer works on him, so instead we're going to just kind of spam fires at him, and also going to try and bait him into running into mine squares. We're gonna also try and hit him with Ignite. Ignite is essentially just a damage over time, which actually does a fair bit to his health bar if you can keep it applied. I'm going to try to... The thing about Vanitas is, like, the more times you fight him, the more he just kind of dodges your attacks, so he gets more and more annoying, like, the further along that you fight him. Come out of the ground. And with Ignite, there we go. Try and avoid too much damage here. He avoided my Ignite there. Shoot. Okay, I'm gonna be pretty careful, trying not to die here. Okay, I got him with the Ignite. Pretty close to dead. Just the Ignite again. He is just not cooperating. I can just get him to go into the Mind Square. Ooh, I am very low on HP. He got me with the last hit. That's kind of unfortunate. Thankfully, retries on bosses is very quick, so all I have to do is hit the retry button. Actually, the first death of the run, which I was expecting at least one death, but I was kind of hoping that it would be at the end at the very least, because that's upper boss. This boss isn't hard per se as much as it is annoying. You really have to be very much on top of your game to avoid just having him appear behind you and just do a crap ton of damage. As long as I can just keep up damage on him. He's dodging a heck of a lot here, which is making it a lot more annoying, especially anytime I try and apply an Ignite to him. Pretty much want to try and apply USM whenever he's in the middle of performing an action, because that's when he's least likely to dodge it. And sometimes he just kind of stands there without really dodging the attack. It's kind of weird how his AI works. Making a bit more hits than I would like. Okay, caught him while he was in the middle of an attack. Okay, there we go. That's the type of damage you want to see on him. Wow! Actually was able to kill me. That's insane. I thought I could get him before he could get that last hit on me. That's very unfortunate. Vanitas is just not cooperating tonight, I guess. It's a little unfortunate.
That's rough.
Yeah, he literally had 1 HP. Like, one more hit and he was dead. Unfortunately, dots cannot kill bosses in this game. You have to hit him with a regular attack, either with like a melee attack or some sort of spell. But a damage over time is not going to finish him off, unfortunately. So I had to wait for that spell to come off cooldown, and it was kind of my downfall there. Yeah, I was finally able to get my Ignite on him. Be very careful. Yeah, I got another Ignite on him at least. I'm gonna play on the defensive here. Try and bait him into coming towards me. Really how I should have been playing before, but okay, there we go. Yeah, Vanitas is just kind of a really rough fight. He's never really too kind to you, so you just kind of have to find effective ways in order to deal with him. I could have brought a high potion there if, in case of the chance that my health went low, but you really want the double ignite in order to keep up a dot on him to keep him from just running at you and just dealing a crap ton of damage. He is very strong, but he is also a late game boss, so it makes a lot of sense why he's that powerful. Alright. So now we are going to be heading towards essentially the last world. Let's see. Going to equip one fire gun, and we did not get any cures, which is a bit unfortunate. We did get some high potions though, so I'm gonna be making use of that for my healing in the final boss. Now we're going to be heading towards the last world. Keyblade Graveyard is going to become an iconic location in Kingdom Hearts series, where pretty much you will see it in pretty much in most of the games from Birth by Sleep onward, Season 2 and 3, and it's just generally a well-liked area just because of the cinematic that plays. That was sort of like a secret movie at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, which was a bit of a preview and a precursor for this game. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see that because, of course, it's a speedrun, so we're going to be skipping the cutscenes, but if you've never seen it before, it is a very cool spectacle, and you can just imagine a lot of the people who played through Kingdom Hearts 2 and got the secret ending and saw that, and it's like, oh my god, what are these secret new characters in this really cool armor, and they're fighting with these keyblades that we've never seen before. It was just something very big to get excited for if you were a KH fan. Yeah, I bought some more high potions just for safety. I shouldn't need that many. 3 honestly should be more than enough, but it's ready to be safe and sorry. Oh, before I forget, I actually need to equip this. That would have made this fight darn near impossible if I had forgotten, just because of the fact that one stat of magic means so much. Like, it basically means the difference between dealing a decent amount of damage and essentially no damage. Alright, so this is Break, somebody that we've literally never seen before and really only has relevance in the end of this story and in Terra's story. So essentially, he's one of the people working for the main antagonist of this game, Xehanort, somebody that I've actually not seen because you don't really interact with Xehanort. You don't have any fights in this speedrun, so he's not really of much relevance, at least for Aqua's story. What's really helping, he would teleport into the Mind Square like that. There we go. Next, he's going to do this Desperation move, which, as long as we dodge around the outskirts, we should be good. Gonna try and reflect his shots, unless we're standing directly below him and he completely misses. There we go. Actually, does quite a bit of damage to Brig. So close to death. Wow, he is just teleporting around and dodging all of my hits. He's just not being kind. Alright, there we go. Alright, now Bray is gonna go off and run away because he's kind of a coward. That's kind of what he's known for, is just running away whenever he's losing a fight. And now we have to do Vanitas 3, which is what a lot of people dub as Vanitas. It's essentially Vanitas has taken over Ventus's body because story reasons. That there's a lot more than I'm really willing to get into right now, but just know that they've essentially done the fusion dance and combined into one being, and now we have to try and stop them. Also, this is going to be the last boss, so once the health bar reaches 0, that'll be time, so I'll let you know when that's going to be coming up. I actually I wanted to hit him when he was setting up the set, but fine. Okay. Yeah, Vanitas has a lot of very fast and agile moves that can be kind of hard to avoid without just straight up spamming the dodge roll button. Yeah. Getting some decent damage in on him. Oh, he's very low. Alright, so we're going to be coming up on time soon as HP reaches 0. And time. Well, that was quite the run. Things definitely did not go as planned, especially because of the whole internet thing. That was the worst thing to happen out of it. But
God, no kidding, huh?
I mean, we got the run done, and we did it for a good cause. You know, it's doing it for charity. So make sure all of you donate and continue to watch, support the marathon, and support the runners. So I don't want to hold up any more time for y'all. So thank you for having me, and yeah, I guess that's it.